You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Monte with a scooping header in!
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It would be very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And what's not to enjoy after Saints come off of a 3-1 win over Wolves at home in a game that saw Nathan Redmond put two past the Wolves defense and Shane Long get on the score sheet for the second time in as many matches. There's not really a lot to complain about, especially since the result put us 8 points clear of the relegation zone. Not safe yet, but darn close. So a lot of things to be excited about, including my conversation with Mike Smale. Mike has been a longtime supporter of the show. I have been a supporter of his for a very long time. I followed his personal Instagram. He is involved in the music industry, so he sees a lot of musicians, and just living through his Instagram feed, you get to see a lot of them as well. His story is usually very entertaining, but Mike is very skilled with video and editing and things like that. And he has launched a new channel. It's called MatchDayVlogs. So you can follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Most places are at MatchDayVlogs, except for Twitter, which is at MatchVlogs. But the links to all those are in the show notes. The most recent episode, the one from the Wolves match, is in the actual episode post on the website. So you can check that out as well. And hopefully you will enjoy that and you will subscribe to it. And you will add that to kind of your Saints media that you consume. Hopefully. And while Mike and I had a lot to talk about, from the new project to the 3-1 win over Wolves, we didn't have time to cover a lot of other things. And, when I set the show up each week, I think about what we're going to cover. And sometimes there are things that I just don't have information on. Like we know Ralph was going to leave. We all read what was written. It wasn't a whole lot, but we can speculate on it. But I chose instead to spend more time talking to Mike about, becoming a fan in his new project than I did kind of jumping around to a bunch of other topics that we would have just not really had as much information on. So I hope that makes sense. As information becomes more available, of course, when the time is right, we will kind of review it. But in the meantime, Adam Leach and Ben Stanfield and everybody else over at the Total Saints podcast, they did a fantastic job covering that. And Adam Leach obviously reports on the club, so he had a bit more information than the rest of us, I think. So you can check out their most recent episode, and you will find, I think, what you were looking for there. So anyway, I hope that all makes sense. And there is another announcement before we get to my conversation with Mike Smale. John Smith is one of the people who has set out for the past couple of years and participated in the Saints Foundation Big Bike Ride. And one of the things they do is they ride to the last game of the season. If it's an away match, they start at St. Mary's, they ride to the home ground of the team that we are playing on the final day of the season. And if it's a home match, they start at the opposition stadium. So last year was at Manchester City, and they rode down to St. Mary's. They arrived midday ahead of the game. And so it's a lot of fun for them. It's a lot of work. Obviously, you're riding, a couple 100 miles usually. And John says usually it takes about 3 days. They ride 100 miles or so on day one, 100 miles or so on day two. And then they break it up a little bit, slow it down, since you're only riding half a day on day 3, but a lot of work, but a lot of friendship built, a lot of camaraderie. And you get not only the feeling of having accomplished that, but also for raising money for the Saints Foundation, which is the charity organization attached to the Southampton Football Club. And they do a lot of good things in the community of Southampton, from helping people with disabilities to helping children, to just looking out for people all over the community. And so if you are interested in helping that cause and you are able, please click the link in the description. There's some links on the Southampton website, but I'll try to link directly to them in the show notes so that you can go and help support. And all of that support is helpful. And if you have more information or you want more information, I included some in last week's newsletter, but I'll put a link to John's blog from last season, and you can kind of read from his account, from somebody who's done it, what it means. Okay. And so I hope that comes across well. And thank you for listening to the show. And if you are able to help out with that, that would be great. So anyway, let's get into my conversation with Mike Smale. Once again, you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at MatchDayVlogs, and on Twitter at MatchVlogs. The links to all of those are in the show notes. The dog is barking, which is great. So let's get to the conversation now, and I'll talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Mikey Smale. You can find him on Twitter at MatchVlogs, and on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook at MatchDayVlogs. He's also on Instagram on his personal account at Mikey Smale. And we're here to talk about the Wolves match, obviously, a good result to discuss, but also the new project, the MatchDayVlogs project. So Mike, luckily Saints started better than this. So how are you, and welcome to the show?
Thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you. Obviously, feeling very good after the win. Yeah, very good, thanks.
Yeah, obviously we're talking just a couple of hours after the win, but you managed to make it back home after, and I caught you in the middle of editing the project. So I appreciate you taking time away from that to do this. And if anybody is expecting your video right now, they'll wait. But yeah, so just welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. And it's nice. I know that for work, you travel quite a bit, and I follow your personal Instagram and see quite a bit of that. And I'm always interested in some of the stuff you're doing, and we will get to that. But can we just start with just you becoming a fan of the team, and kind of when did that start? I know you live in Salisbury now, but have you always lived there, or were you originally maybe from Southampton or somewhere else, or how did all this happen?
No, well, I was always lived in Salisbury. Literally, I pretty much for the first part of my life, I lived like maybe 500 yards away from the hospital where I was born. But growing up in Salisbury, it was kind of you were either a Saints fan, which was kind of like the local big club, or you supported Liverpool back then. So this is me kind of growing up early school years, around sort of the late 80s, early 90s.
When they were winning stuff, or before?
Yeah, right
around when they won stuff.
Yes, exactly. So that they were a big club back then. I think we can say that. Yeah.
It's a safe place for that. Yeah.
It's a safe place for that. Yeah. So yeah, it was really a choice of two clubs. You're either a Southampton fan or a Liverpool fan. I went with Southampton. Super glad I did, obviously. And then really sort of followed the club quite passively growing up. I was very fortunate to get taken to my first game by my father. I made a note of this actually. In the 17th of April, 1993 was my first game at the Dell, and it was Saints 0, Everton 0. A bit of trivia there. But yeah, and kind of grew up as a Saints fan. Obviously, a lot of where I live, there's a lot of Saints fans who live in the area. So yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because I always just assume that everybody that lives in England is a fan of their local club. But I'm quickly doing this show, you come to realize that that's not how it is. Even if that's I think sometimes that's the perception that people want to give, is that, you either support your local club or you don't exist. And really, it's just not the way it goes. But I'm glad that you are a Southampton fan. If you're a Liverpool fan, probably wouldn't be doing this. I probably wouldn't have seen the number of guitar players in weird places in Sweden and Norway and everywhere else that you've been, and everything else. So I'm glad you chose this club as well. But I mean, growing up in Salisbury, it seems like a bit of a sleepy town. I've driven through it once. It doesn't seem like maybe sleepy is the wrong word, but it seems like a pretty quiet place. Like I mean, did you play sports and stuff growing up, or was there other stuff that you were interested in? I mean, I know your music's kind of a big part of your life now. Did it play a role then as well?
No, well, sports and music was a big part of my life growing up. I'm from a very musical family, and really, sports I did through kind of what I did through school and after school projects and things like that, really. So I played in a few football teams growing up, and other kind of sports as well, including some racket sports such as badminton and tennis and things like that. So sports always been a dominant part of my life. I'm quite a competitive person, I think. And yeah, it's always been a factor of my life. And of course, following sports, watching sports on TV, huge fan of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, anything other than football, or was it mainly football and then music after that? Yeah,
it's probably mainly football and music, really. I think there are two big things. I think if you ask most rock stars what they'd be other than rock stars, it was footballers, and then footballers want to be rock stars, right? So there's a kind of a fine line. And
well, some football players think they're rock stars. I just watch their highly curated Instagram feeds, and you'll be fine. So I mean, you mentioned you're from a pretty musical family, and your job is always it's intriguing. I think I've talked about it already a little bit, but like, I guess what is your title? I don't know exactly what it is. I just know that I get to see a lot of stuff. So what is it that you actually do?
Effectively, what I am is I work for an instrument accessories manufacturer, and I really the bigger umbrella is sales. I'm in a sales marketing position for instrument accessories companies that make things like guitar strings, drum heads, drumsticks, and things like that. So really a lot of those factories are based, like the guitar string factory is based in Long Island, New York. We make woodwinds, reeds, and things like that in Burbank, California, very close to where you are, I guess. And we have various plantations for those reeds in Argentina and the south of France. So it's all kind of spread out, and our drumstick production is in Houston, Texas, and our plantation is our sawmill is in Tennessee. So it's all kind of all over the place, really. But my focus is really on working within the European markets. All those brands and stuff like that.
So have you been to all of those factories and things? Like
I have, yeah.
So how many U.S. states have you been to? Because there's a chance. I mean, you could beat me here. Like there's a chance you've been to more states than me.
So I guess I've been to Texas. Let me see. Tennessee. Have I got that right? Yeah. New York State. I guess New Jersey I've been to, but only as a tourist.
I know you've been to California.
Been to California, yes. Not been to Vegas, so I've been down to San Diego, but still in California, right? Mm-hmm. I'm showing my ignorance here. But,
no, you're good.
And where else? No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, I was going to be really, really embarrassed if you were. I think I know. So California, Nevada. I've been to Utah. Been to Texas. Been to Maryland. And I've been to the Grand Canyon, so I've been to Arizona, but so I got you by a couple hundred yards, but that's okay.
So if I include the places where I've connected, Boston, maybe.
And I did go to Kansas as well. So that was my one middle of the country. It's very flat. That's all I got. Like they're like, we got to go up the hill. I'm like, it's not a hill. It's just flat. Same thing when you went to England. It's just kind of like
right.
That's barely it barely blocks the sun at a different time of the day. Like it's basically the sun's got to go all the way down before that thing helps. So much different than here where we're just surrounded by. I live in a valley that goes straight to the ocean, and we have wonderful mountains to the east. It's fantastic. So well, I for anybody who doesn't follow you on your personal Instagram, your story is always just the wide range of bands that you wind up kind of sitting in front of at these whether they're trade shows or whatever they are, like, are just it's always enjoyable. And it's like I go get my this is total nerd stuff, but like I go get my headphones and I put them on to watch that because I just want to hear it. Like I think it sounds good. So and I mentioned to you before, like my cousin is a professional or musician. Like he's a bass player and produces my music. Yeah. He lives in San Diego, and so it's always I always just look and see if you guys are at the same place. You guys were at the NAMM show a couple years ago at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. But I also realize that's like, that's a ton of people, so there's no way you're ever seeing each other. So it's all right. But yeah,
big show. Incredibly musical place, San Diego as well.
Yeah.
There's a great piano bar called Shout, with 2 piano players that basically you throw any song at them and they'll play it. It's unbelievable.
It's a lot of fun. So, you can have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When the school district offers conferences down in San Diego, you're like, oh, I guess I'll take that one. Like, I have to stay at the Hard Rock. Oh, okay, like that's fine. No big deal. 5 days. Oh man, that's it's gonna be tough to be away from the family, but I'll be okay. Oh, you want to give me my per diem check up front? That sounds great. I don't need to eat. I'll just drink all week long. It'll be fun. But anyway, so I mean, I know sometimes you've done a little bit of vlog type stuff with that, and I don't know. For me, I kind of like I thought maybe you were practicing, maybe you were seeing if you liked it, maybe was that part of what you were doing when you were doing that, or you just really enjoy it? And eventually, I want to get into what made you start the YouTube channel MatchDayVlogs, because it's relatively new, but it's a new project for you, and you've been going at it pretty hard here for the past couple of months, I think. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I mean, I think I've always enjoyed video editing. It's another big passion of mine. I got into photography and videography probably about 2015. Really bought a GoPro, and then suddenly the world opened up to recording anything when I was traveling and sort of seeing the world and sort of trying to capture those things. And the MatchDayVlogs thing was growing out of my other YouTube channel. I had another YouTube channel, Mr. Mike Smale, that I was basically doing travel vlogs and drone videos and things like that were really sort of, it was more kind of travel vlogs and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the MatchDayVlogs thing was kind of growing out of the same kind of factor. I was still I was watching a few people doing vlogging football. It's nothing new. People have been vlogging football for a few years now. And so I was including a few of those on some of the games I was going to, just for a bit of fun. And a lot of those were building a lot of traction. I think I did one towards the end of last season, which kind of captured the moment it was from the win against Bournemouth. Actually, no, it was the loss against Chelsea, and then the rest of the season from then. And I sort of combined the two together. And it had about 7,000 hits, and I was like, "Wow, this is quite kind of popular." So it got me thinking. So I started to do a few more of these MatchDayVlogs because I really enjoyed the content that's created by all the content creators around Southampton Football Club. I mean, yourself, The Ugly Inside. I mean, there's loads of great content creators, but there wasn't really anything that was capturing the euphoria, the tears, the raw emotion that what it was when a goal went in, or suddenly you'd lost in the 92nd minute or something like that. All those kind of things that really it's kind of mesmerizing to watch. I mean, I watch a lot of the football vlog channels. Even when I know the result, but I just want to be immersed in that whole kind of environment, that experience, which sounds terrible, really, when you know you've lost. But it's almost like you can actually be there in that moment and just experience what those feelings and emotions were. So I was doing a lot of the MatchDayVlogs within my own YouTube channel, and I suddenly thought, these kind of growing, and it's kind of confusing what my channel was. I was doing, you're suddenly doing panoramic shots of a beautiful beach somewhere in wherever, and then suddenly you're thrown into a football environment. So I was getting a lot of people wanting football content. Suddenly next week they were getting some kind of travel content, and it wasn't making sense. So I kind of made the call to set up an additional channel and move it across and separate it, just so that really both channels could do what they do and it wouldn't confuse the subscriber base. Because there was never going to be a chance that my existing channel was going to grow, because I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus on just doing football, because I wanted to continue with my photography and videography and all the kind of cinematic kind of stuff. But in the same way, you're moving a similar type of content where you're getting cinematic shots of the players warming up for a game. You're getting that build up, that kind of, the energy, the atmosphere, the stadium environment, what it is to be there within the stadium, alongside the raw emotion of, oh my goodness, we've held out 2-1 against Tottenham, all this kind of stuff that really, really kind of encapsulates what MatchDayVlogs is really. So I guess that's what it is basically in a nutshell. And ultimately it's combining two of my loves, Southampton Football Club and video editing. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And you often go to the games with, I don't know, is your brother-in-law or your friend? I can't remember.
I mainly go with Jack, who's actually a friend who I found through a friend.
Okay.
A good friend of mine who's a bass player in my band, and I found out he was a Saints fan. I was like, oh great, do you want to come to a game? And then he came with us to a game, and then gradually I connected to him, and we basically started going to the games together. And quite often I go with my father, my brother, as well, and occasionally my kids as well. But it's kind of, the MatchDayVlogs thing is almost all of us really.
Yeah.
Sort of that whole kind of community thing, which is another thing I love about the Southampton fan community is you gain so many great connections through the games. It's almost like you're one fan. It's great. So
I don't know if you can hear that. It's my neighbor has decided to weed whack and blow. So hopefully
it's not coming through on my headset.
We will see. And to the people,
we'll see, okay.
I can do a lot of things with the audio. We'll see how good I am, I guess. So hopefully it's not too irritating, but we will continue on. I enjoy watching the vlogs. I think they're awesome. And it's very clear to me that you do. I mean, that you obviously have some experience in terms of editing and things like that, and shooting, and kind of knowing what to catch and what not. But I'm wondering if kind of how it's changed the way you go about watching the matches. Because I know there are some times when I'm not doing a show on a particular week because we have something else going on, and I'm just going to sit and watch. That's a completely different kind of feeling for me, because I don't ever do that. It's always taking notes and writing stuff down and tweeting something. And it's nice for me because I sit here in California, thousands of miles away from other Saints fans. And so to be able to do that for me is nice. But you kind of being in a stadium, do you find it takes away from maybe your match day experience, or does it add something different, or does it just kind of all the same to you because it just is part of your match day now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think really I made a conscious decision to change the way I was doing MatchDayVlogs because it was affecting the way I was watching the games, and actually ultimately my enjoyment of the games. I used to basically watch with my GoPro in my right or left hand with my finger on the record button, just in case something happened, or something, maybe a corner was coming up, or suddenly there's a free kick, or there's a break, suddenly we've broken their defense down and we're on the run. And I was so obsessed with capturing a moment, I wasn't embracing what was happening around me. It was almost like I wasn't there. So what I do now is very different. Is basically I catch the before the game, how I'm feeling, a few sort of predictions for the score, that kind of stuff, all the kind of build up. And then simply, if something like maybe James Ward-Prowse's free kick comes up, I may grab the GoPro then, but I don't grab it as much because I know it's interfering with my personal experience, my enjoyment of the game. And I don't think it's affected that too much. And what I tend to do is this screen which basically shows the score and then the goals going in and who's scoring them, and then it cuts straight to half time.
Yeah.
So it's only, and I find that really sort of is enough. Some people do comment and say, I I'd like to see more of the game. I like to see more of the kind of what's going on, but there's still enough of that alongside what I do. So, but yeah, I've definitely changed the way I do it for that exact reason.
I think that's great because it is always interesting to me because I feel like when I went to West Ham last year, I took, I didn't bring the whole microphone setup, but I took I have a handheld recorder that I took and I just felt silly trying to like record stuff while I was there. Like, I was just like this, I'm very comfortable right now doing what we're doing. And
Right.
I should be after nearly 120 episodes of doing it. But like to even sit there and just talk to Freddie and look at him in the face was like, I feel like an idiot, And so, and I was worried, are they going to let me in with it? Are they going to take it away? And so, and I've heard horror stories of people not being allowed to bring on cameras and things like that. So it's all a different kind of thing. And it's, yeah, but I'm glad for your sake that you've kind of found what works for you. Because ultimately it's about watching the team and supporting the team. And if you're not enjoying it, then it's not worth doing. So
Yeah, exactly. You can't make a lot of noise when you've got a GoPro in your hand. You kind of have to, you're there to support the lads and do your bit as a fan. So, if you're tired too much on your gear, it's, who knows. But there we go.
But let's jump in a little bit to the, I could ask you questions about this stuff all day. So let's get into the match a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a great result today. A game that I was obviously, honestly, a little bit nervous about simply because Wolves tend to play really well against teams who want to play. They don't do so well when teams sit back and, force them to break them down. And I was worried that our pressing might leave us exposed. And I think there were a couple instances of that today where you saw Vestergaard, being run at by somebody down the wing. And it was like, well, this could go really poorly. There was a late challenge early on that he could have been booked for had it been later, but it all worked out. And I guess just starting with the lineup, I mean, were you surprised at all to see Sims come in and Romeu be dropped to the bench? I mean, it was more of an attacking threat. From when I was looking at it on paper, I was thinking there was three center. They play with three center backs. We've now put an attacker on each center back, so they don't have we made that difficult for them because they can't double team one of them. And at the same time, though, we've gambled because they're going to outnumber us in midfield, and that could be an issue. But for you, I mean, were you at all surprised with that, or were you pretty happy with how it all kind of with how I guess Hasenhüttl lined the team up?
Yeah, I mean, I was like you, quite surprised to see Sims included in the lineup. I mean, I think surprised, but kind of happy to think that okay, we're going to go for this. We're not going to try and defensively hold out for maybe and grab a goal. So I was surprised, yes, but I wasn't, panicking at that point. But certainly seeing the Wolves lineup, I mean, watching the game today, it's no wonder that Wolves are in the position they are. They're a very tight, organised unit, despite, of course, the FA Cup result last weekend. But no, I would say before the game, feeling pretty confident, and certainly having Ings back in the side after not being eligible against Liverpool, kind of had a good feeling to it actually. Towards the start. Yeah. Well,
I mean, and we've been playing well recently. It's been the team has been on a good run, and it's really nice to see. And I guess I still have some of that Hughes Pellegrino kind of looming over me, where one result doesn't mean anything, and even two results maybe it's like I find myself doubting them, and I don't want to. I want to really believe that we're doing well, but I'm always afraid that I'm always just afraid to get too confident and then be brought back down to earth. So right now I'm feeling, I mean, I normally don't smile this much when I'm doing it. I haven't over the past couple of years, but this feels pretty good. I mean, what was the atmosphere like today? I know last week, even though we lost to Liverpool, it's the atmosphere seemed pretty good in terms of when I was watching it on TV and stuff like that. But like, what was it like today? Just leading up to kickoff.
Very good. I mean, I think there's certainly when you see the team selection as it is, the kind of sort of the anticipation builds up. There's generally a lot of build up before the game, but I think that the stadium was feeling confident. I think most people's heads were thinking we might pull out a draw here, but there was certainly an anticipation in the same respect that we're in a position now where we're playing without fear, or that whole kind of anticipation of or the anxiety that, you know, or what happens if we lose. You know, there's more of this feeling amongst the fans as that, you know, we might actually get something today. So I'd say it was a positive environment in the stadium beforehand. Yeah, very good.
I mean, and then I guess right from the kickoff there, it was fireworks. You know, it all kind of happened so fast. And I know from experience that getting to your seat for kickoff is kind of like, well, you know, how often do we really see goals scored in the first first couple of minutes? And I don't know the statistics on it, so I'm not going to pretend to do it. But it's all of a sudden it was just like, well, that was quick. And it was Sims. I think the announcer here was Sims was running onto the ball. You know, he's got some space and he's got some pace, and then he whips it across and Redmond gets in front and the ball is in. And I mean, was anybody, were people even in their seats yet, or did it just happen kind of as people were kind of like trying to shuffle along and do that?
No, the stadium was pretty full. But there was definitely a muted roar when that goal went in, because everyone's kind of slightly shocked. You know, they're thinking like, oh, we weren't ready for this. You know, it's kind of like but yeah, it was literally our first chance. I mean, it's not often that you have. I mean, there were so many games this season where we simply haven't taken our chances, and then you literally get number one, and it goes in. Everyone's just kind of like, wow, you know what happened there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's superbly taken. You know, great ball in, and then came in from Sims on the wide there, and then Redmond just got in front of the defender and tap it in, and it's, you know, you couldn't really ask for more. It was but definitely it was a feeling of shock in the stadium. It's like, oh, okay, great, you know.
Yeah, and it was nothing more than just kind of a little, you know, I think what we've done so well over the past couple of weeks is the ball doesn't seem to sit always on the ground for us. It's we interrupt teams trying to make a pass, or we make a challenge and just slam it against them and let the ball go up in the air, and then we kind of capitalize on that. We're now being the first ones kind of to those balls, and it just seemed like a little bit of chaos. Then the little ball over the top, and Sims just ran onto it and put the ball across. And Redmond did, I think, what we want our attackers to do is just put your body on the line, kind of, and force the defender to either foul you or you know, make a mistake or whatever. And he just got in front, and it's similar to what Long did against Arsenal a couple of years ago, where he just kind of dipped right in front of Koscielny, I think, and was able just to poke a ball home. And it's just like that happened so fast, and it was. I mean, I'm just sitting here smiling at the TV screen, going like, "All right, what do we do now? You know, did we score too early? You know, is this a problem?" But it was pretty good. And then I think the next thing I noticed was the Vestergaard's super late challenge. Is like you can see him going down and slide for what seemed like 5 minutes. You know, but I think the game was always going to be fun to watch with the two teams that were there. When you see kind of the wing backs matched up on each other, we have three attackers for their center backs. Like there was always going to be some action, I guess. And then really it seemed like Wolves kind of grew into it. They seemed to kind of have the lion's share of possession. They seemed to really put us under some pressure at points, but we did pretty well to I think to withstand that and hold up to it. And I mean, at any point during that, was the crowd kind of maybe a little bit worried and growing quiet as Wolves seemed to build themselves kind of into the game?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of anxiety. I mean, they have, you know, 5 players in midfield. It was like a wall, you know, and poor Vestergaard, and there was a couple of occasions where James Ward-Prowse was just stuck, not knowing where to position the ball, because it was just literally like this giant yellow wall on the halfway line. And so, I mean, once they could get it through there, they had some possibility of doing things, but really, I would say Wolves pretty much dominated the game after that first goal of ours, and were growing in confidence, and ultimately got that goal back. But it was, you could see it coming. It was definitely building, where they were basically sort of clamping down on us, and we just couldn't get the ball out of our up to our frontman. Really, it was quite a dangerous part. That.
Yeah, and it seemed like even when we tried to go over the top down the I think the right side to Sims, we left it a little short a couple of times. You could see Bednarik trying to play that ball over the top, and the center back on that side just calmly nodded it down to one of his 5 midfielders, and they came right back the other way. And there were a couple of instances where I was worried because I think Højbjerg and James Ward-Prowse both gave the ball away quite a bit during the first half, which was a little bit worrying, especially given the form they've been in. I mean, because the formation today requires James Ward-Prowse to step back slightly from the role he's been playing, I think, to more play alongside Højbjerg, but he's in such good form that you can't really, somebody has to move to lose out, and it's got to be Romeu, and I don't think it can be Højbjerg, who is the captain, or JWP right now. But there were a couple of times where like, I think Jimenez was open for balls would have been played across, but we did just enough. But like you said, once they got that goal back, it was coming. Yeah, I think it was fairly. I think it was deserved on their part. And then it's kind of just, well, how are we going to get? What are we going to do? And then all of a sudden we were up a goal again. It's just like, and that, I mean, the second goal. Your seats, you don't sit in one of the ends, right? You sit kind of in the middle. Am I correct?
I actually move around quite a bit.
Okay.
So like for this game, I was taking my eldest daughter, Isabella, and we sat in the family section. So I was kind of in a corner, sort of looking diagonally across. But yeah, that second goal of ours, it literally was, again, our first chance after the goal. And again, the stadium erupted, but there was still an element of, no, this is like our first real attempt getting back in it. And we've kind of done to Wolves what normally happens to us when we score, that whole kind of quickly conceding after you score a goal. So that was great, and it was fantastic ball from Danny Ings. I mean, it was almost, from where I was sitting, it didn't look like Danny Ings was in the game too much because of where he was positioned. Because I think everyone was expecting him to be up front, waiting for the ball to come in, but really he was working as a great playmaker and creating some incredible passes. So. Yeah,
I mean, he has shown, I think, a lot over the season that he is a forward. But I call him almost, he plays more like a center forward than like a striker. He almost like he could play number 10 almost, because he likes to come deep and pick up the ball. And some of those passes that ball he put through for Redmond was it was like a slide roll. It was just right through the defense. It cut him open and just was right into Redmond's pass. It was perfect. It was the weight of it was perfect. Everything was great. And he did it again for Sims not long after, and Sims, or maybe it was later in the game, but Sims went wide. And it was just like, it's the one tweet I think I had during the game that didn't get any likes, but it's like, it's like Danny Ozil is playing for us today. And it was like, I thought he was really, really good doing that. And it was impressive to watch and fun to see him be able to play that, because I think in under previous management, maybe we didn't have the people running off of him to be able to do that, where if the forward dropped deep, that meant that nobody was there the ball was always going to come backwards from there. And I think we saw that maybe a little bit with Austin last year, a couple of times when he would try to get on the ball and there's just nobody, there was no movement around him. And this year it seems like Redmond made a really intelligent run for that goal. And you just hope, I thought the goalkeeper was going to tip it over. Like, just, it didn't look like he got quite enough lift on it, but it was pretty awesome. But was that, so from the family stand where you were sitting, was that the opposite end of the stadium from you, or was it kind of?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Darn. So at the far kind of end, but no, I mean, it's still a great finish.
Yeah.
Two very composed finishes from Nathan Redmond. So yeah.
And then what was your daughter's reaction there? Because I imagine the family stand, you got to watch her language a little bit, and I think
right.
which I can do on here, but you take me off of here, and I'm not good at it. I don't know. It's like I should just walk around with a microphone in my mouth all the time. But what was your daughter's reaction when that happened?
Yeah, she went crazy. I mean, it's kind of amazing to see her, react and respond and sort of go with the crowd kind of thing. And I think there was a moment during the Spurs games a few weeks back where I caught her shouting, "You don't know what you're doing," to the referee, and it was just a beautiful moment for a father to see. But do you know what? I think at St Mary's now, the volume, I mean, obviously Northam are the loudest part of the stadium, that goes without saying. But as you move around, you suddenly realise that actually a large proportion of the noise is coming from, obviously there's Itchen North and Northam, and then the family stand. I think there's quite a few kind of parents who take their kids along who are super passionate. And there was a chorus of "Stand up if you love the Saints, stand up if you love the Saints." and the family section was up at the same time the northern section was. It was quite something to behold, really. So
awesome.
I would.
Well, that's good, because I think the kids, I think sometimes I can't. Maybe I'm out of line here saying this, but like, you think sometimes the kids might be a little bit intimidated if they're not in the family stand, because it can be, you look around the stadiums in England, and it's a lot of, middle-aged or older, or even sometimes younger men in black jackets who have had a couple of beers and they're kind of angry. And it's like, well, that can turn some people off, if you're an 8-year-old girl who's just really excited to watch her favorite football team, so you give them the opportunity to be able to kind of embrace it and go nuts a little bit. And I think they'll make us proud. We just got to give them the chance. But yeah. I mean, anything else kind of stand out to you in the first half? Because I think even after we scored, Wolves were going to go into halftime wondering how the hell they were down 2-1.
It could have been. I would say it could have been 4-1 by halftime, because there were a couple of chances, and I have to watch Match of the Day later. They'll probably show at least 3 seconds of our game. But
it's there we go. How Wolves blew it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there were definitely a couple of chances where given the fact that we'd taken our first chance and second chance, you just thought, well, why didn't we take those 2 chances? And we could have been 4-1 up in a game which we barely had any possession in, just because we were so clinical up front when we had the opportunity to be so. So it was a confident feeling after the first half, and then when the announcer came on to give the halftime results elsewhere, and the stadium could hear that Cardiff were behind as well. That was like fantastic, because the points tally, we were looking at a situation, we could be chatting here today 8 points clear of relegation zone, or 2 points clear of relegation zone. And it's just a great thing that we're 8 points clear, and things are looking very positive now. But so yeah, it all sort of ties in with that, really.
Yeah, I think the only worry for me going into halftime was I think because we played so well without the ball in other instances this year, I don't think it's part of Hasenhüttl's game, really. We don't need the ball all the time to do good things, I guess. I thought the positives for me were really just our attack in general. Redmond, Sims, and Ings all seemed to be doing a really good job in causing some issues when we did get those chances. I was a little bit worried about the midfield because I felt like we were losing out there, but and we didn't have any control really in the game. It seems like you could see Højbjerg. Every time we got the ball, he was just saying, just calm down, take a second, make a pass. But then, you watch the defenders look up, and Bednarek's going, well, I have nobody to give the ball to. I either go long to Sims or I go backwards. And then you see him try to jam it into Ward-Prowse or Højbjerg's feet. And it's like there's 3 Wolves players on him. So I was a little bit worried about that. I didn't know if we were going to be able to hold out, but I don't know. And then they came out right away, and they looked a lot better to start the second half than they did to start the first. I think Jolly got behind Valerie twice in kind of quick succession, and but then from there it kind of settled into much of the same thing. The Wolves with a lot of the ball, occasionally threatening, but us doing enough. And then I think we changed formation a little bit. I think that helped. I think when Romeo came on and Long came on, I think that was for me really the first time I noticed us taking a kind of a different approach and maybe, I don't know, trying to rectify the kind of the issues we were seeing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think had we sort of come to a situation where it was, I can't remember when the substitutions were made, but 60, 70 minutes gone, and suddenly Danny Ings has been substituted for Shane Long, I think most of the stadium would have been booing. But really, there's so much trust for Hasenhüttl and his plan. You could see what he was thinking. He's going to firm up the midfield, and he was going to bring Shane Long on to have that extra bit of legs so we could catch him on the counter attack when we needed to. So it kind of made perfect sense, really, what we were seeing in front of us. But Oriol, when he came on, had a fantastic game, I thought. He was really sort of commanding that midfield, keeping hold of the ball, and it just sort of really secured it. I mean, when you're a Saints fan and you're 2 goals up, and it's kind of 85 minutes gone, there's still something inside you that says, no, we might get a draw here, who knows. But to have that kind of surety, you suddenly sort of see the team sort of building in confidence and thinking like, Yeah, and there were a few times where we had to play the ball back, and I don't think that was to the liking of most of the stadium. But it wasn't a bad thing. We still had the ball. We were still controlling the game. We don't have to keep going for it. I mean, we were 3-1 up, and we were going for a fourth goal most of the time, and then there was one pass back, and everyone's like, "Woo!" It's like, what are the guys got to do here? Come on. But no, it's a confidence performance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the you mentioned the kind of trust in Hasenhüttl is, he has earned that from us. You look at the number of wins that we have under him this season, the way that he's got the guys playing. I think he's earned the right to maybe make some substitutions that had Mark Hughes made them or had Pellegrino made them, we would have been all over him for. But you have to earn that, and you get one or two free passes, and then if you don't do it, then I think we'd be on him. But I think he's definitely, like I said, I think he's earned it. But I think another thing is we got to keep Ainge fit, and it was clear that what he wants to do and drop deep, that's not what we needed at that point. We needed essentially 10 men behind the ball and long up front to run and cause some issues, and that's exactly what we did for the last 28 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it was. And then we got the third, and I think the best part about the third is Yoshida trying the bicycle kick. And I mean, because he had the I don't know if you saw the last game. He had that kind of like weird block where he kind of like jumped up and almost karate kicked it, out, and then today he decides the bicycle kick. I'm like, oh, this is great. Just go have fun. This is the best part, is that these are grown men, professionals who like actually look like they are enjoying their job. And that's something that I really like. And then, so he tries that, it gets blocked. And then he just has the presence of mind just to go like, I'll just flick this forward. Like I just have to get something on it to keep it here. And then Long does the rest. And I think, the Long played for West Brom, and I know that's got to be something to score against Wolves. I think that's a thing. So I think that'll make him happy. And I saw somebody mention on Twitter that the Wolves fans were definitely booing Shane Long, and then they all kind of went quiet when he scored. And for him to get 2-2 now, it's like, what are we gonna do? I guess we can't say he doesn't score anymore, but I mean, I didn't see that coming. If you would have asked me today, bet money who scores today, Ings or Long, it's like, well, no doubt.
I would love to know the odds of Shane Long scoring two consecutive games. So I have to be honest, when that Shane Long goal went in, I thought it was offside, but I think Traore was playing him on because he was still sat, pretty deep.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, I know, to get Shane Long come on. I think he'd been on the pitch like maybe 5 minutes or so. But yeah.
Shane Long, I mean, Traore came on and he does one thing, I mean, Ian Dark, who is the announcer here, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he announces a lot of games in the U.S., does the U.S. men's national team a lot. And I like him. I don't know if everybody likes him, but I like him. And he just like, as Traore was warming up, he called him a pace merchant. And I'm like, I don't know if you're allowed to say that. Like, I feel like as the actual commentator on CNBC, like you're on a nationally televised channel right now. You're just calling somebody a pace merchant. I'm not sure you're allowed to do that, but it made me laugh. So go for it, buddy. But like, it's great. Richard Jolly tweeted, and somebody pointed this out to me. Shane Long has scored 3 times as many Premier League goals as Alexis Sanchez this season.
Wow.
Like that.
Compare the weekly wages on that one.
Yeah, seriously. So, I mean, good for Long. Good for Long. Does it mean I want him starting every week? No, but it's okay. And then I think even after that, we created several chances, and they never looked like they were coming back in to the game after that. We were there and could have possibly added more, like you said. Had we taken those other chances in the first half, it would have been even more. But we'll take the 3-1 win. We'll hold our heads high and we'll move out of there. But I guess the only kind of negative thing it would be Valerie's injury. You could see him kind of. I think it's easier to see on TV probably than sitting in the stadium when a guy pulls up, because the camera immediately goes to them, and follows them around a little bit. And he came up and then he made that big run down the sideline where he eventually got tackled, I think, just crowded out of it by 2 or 3 Wolves players. And then he went and sat down in the center circle and they kept playing. And then he kind of tried to get up and do it again and he couldn't go. So, is that injury, Jack Stevens playing right back or James Ward-Prowse maybe playing right back at some point? Like, does that worry you are you okay with Ramsey if he has to come in or I'll be honest, I had to go coach my daughter's team. So I didn't hear the post-match press conferences if they've found anything or if it was just precautionary or what, but just any thoughts on that? No,
I'm not really aware of any kind of long-term injury to, or the results of that. But I think we have a lot of, it's weird to think that when we're in a situation where we're thinking, okay, we don't really have strength and depth, and then all of a sudden these academy players are coming through and, players we've never even heard of are making the first team lineup and they're blowing us away. So yes, it is a concern because he's been a massive impact for us. So we shall see on that one. But one thing I will say is that when Jack Stevens came on, I think everyone was expecting the formation at the back to change. But Jack Stevens broke down the right side and was literally found himself by the corner flag right in front of me. And it was just the funniest thing to see because he was thinking, like, how have I got here? And what do I do? What do I do now? So he then sort of broke into the penalty box and nearly had a run on goal. And it was just quite an amazing thing to see. One, that amount of confidence, and the fact that he just went for it. So yeah, injuries are always going to happen. But I guess if the team's strong in their mentality and the confidence is there as a unit, everyone's going to rally behind themselves and. Maybe it's a position where Ramsey come in, and as you say, James Ward-Prowse could perhaps sit back there and give us that pace on the right side. But we shall see, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the final whistle, it's the first win over Wolves since 2007.
Wow!
In the championship, it was a 6-0 win for Saints. And I remember last year under Pellegrino being the midweek EFL Cup game. Generally, I would try to at that point in my job, I could usually get out of things and be able to listen to it at least on the radio, but I had to be in a classroom, and so I kept checking my phone. I checked the score and just well, I'm not checking that again because that's not going to happen. And it wasn't great. But this year, and it was a bit fun to watch. I will give them that. They are an enjoyable team to watch for the most part, and for a team that has just come up, and granted they've spent a lot of money, I'm not going to fault them, and they're not going down. They'll be around, and I think they'll be actually disappointed to not, have made a better showing last week when they just did not make the final, and then this week I think they'll hang their heads a little bit. But if their season ends now the way it is, that as a promoted team, I think they should be happy, but I think they expected a little bit more. But we end the game with only 30% possession. Okay. But only 2 fewer shots and only 1 fewer shot on target. So it's just another example where it's us actually taking our chances and creating a fair number of chances as we were earlier in the year, but very clear and just being more clinical with them. And I think part of it is when we press teams and they give the ball away, all of a sudden there's usually some sort of numerical advantage. Or
right.
We're already moving towards the goal, and they're backpedaling, but now they have to turn and run, and so to do that, I think it makes it. I think it turns it in our favor a little bit, and so it's nice to see the team kind of using the ball better than we have in the past, and I don't know how Hasenhüttl's got them to believe in that system and do that, but they've been just great at it, and it makes it for a much more enjoyable watch. It makes getting up at pretty early in the morning to view the game a little bit easier and a little bit more excited a little bit more exciting to sit and talk about. So, any kind of final thoughts on the match itself or on any performers today that maybe stood out to you?
I guess another thing I was just going to add to the comments you just said there actually was my line manager for my job is actually a German guy, so he's very familiar with Hasenhüttl in the German league.
Okay.
So and he was telling me how one thing that was kind of a problem for players that were playing under Hasenhüttl was literally, he would drain them in terms of they would literally be running, they'd be pressing, they'd be, very attacking, very, very aggressive. But when it came to things like injuries, and when it came to things like, lengthy periods of the game, that things would get pretty tired. So it kind of sort of set a few line bells on me. And I think when we played, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was the Boxing Day game against West Ham, and we just looked exhausted. We looked totally beat, and we were kind of drained. But we've appeared to have sort of stabilised ourselves into this kind of balance where we're able to do this pressing kind of football and maintain composure and control of the game. There were periods of today's game where the dominance of Wolves midfield made us look like we had 10 men at some points of the game. But really, we've been able to sort of tie things together, and the system is working despite only having 30% possession. We come away with a I would say ultimately, you can't really say convincing 3-1 win, but we took our chances and controlled the game, despite low possession.
I think anybody that watches the game, if they've never watched either team before, they will say, well, Wolves are good, but Saints aren't. I don't know if you want to play them either. That didn't look. Even without the ball, we look like we knew that was the plan. This is how we were going to play, and it'll just be interesting to see if people are okay with that. I think we have a question on that, but I wanted to read a couple of things that somebody kind of wrote in. So in the Discord channel, which is how I communicate with the patrons, it's for patrons only. They've all signed up at patreon.com/SFC delivery. But Dave Lee says Southampton have won 8 of their 18 Premier League games under Hasenhüttl, as many as they had won in 52 games under their previous 2 managers combined. Mark Hughes 3 from 22 and Mauricio Pellegrino 5 of 30. That is, and people, there are very few people, but people are still doubting Hasenhüttl, and it's like, I don't know how you do that.
What's he got to do?
it's
win the Premier League. Come on.
Yeah. And then along the same lines, Southampton have won 6 of their 13 Premier League games so far in 2019. This is as many as they had won in the whole of 2018 when they played 37. So, we're miles better than we have been in terms of results, and I think in terms of enjoyment. As somebody who goes to games and is there, I think, is that reflected in kind of the stadium and the way people are just the mood around the stadium, I guess? Oh,
definitely. There's I think there was a period under Pellegrino and ultimately probably Puel as well that the players were saying that the fans should be more vocal, more supportive, and it's a two-way thing, really. You've got to see performance and effort to get the stadium behind you. But there's just such a positivity in that stadium at the moment. It's got to be helping. Of course, the systems, the techniques, the formations that have been used on the pitch, and the improvement in the players is one thing, but just the general mood in the stadium is fantastic. A few weeks back against Spurs, every time they sung their silly song of when the Spurs go marching in, we just drowned them out and we literally decimated them in terms of the volume. So, and it was the same today. The chorus is going around saying we still need more songs, as Jack on my channel often says. But we were definitely in full voice. Itchin, Northam, and the family stand were making plenty of noise.
I think the only question we have, because we are recording so soon, kind of after the thing, people haven't gotten them in. I am sure when I wake up tomorrow, I'll have tons of questions that I won't be able to answer, but that's okay. Says we spent a lot of time. This comes from Kevin McGee, who is another patron, but he sends this in via Facebook. He says, we spent a lot of time today actively sitting back and letting Wolves play. We had 30% possession in total. What's going on with the tactic? And by the way, I'm absolutely not complaining. So does it, would you say, like, from being there that people seem to be okay with that the idea that today, because today I think was a little bit different than normal, where we've seen us press and press and press for a lot of time. But when we brought Romeu on, we very clearly went like 5-4-1. There were kind of 2 banks there for a good period of time. Were people, I guess, okay with that? Do you think people will be okay with that as long as it gets results and as long as we at times break quickly and do those other things, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think the game was being played to whoever we were playing. We were playing a Wolves side here that were very attacking, very solid in midfield, and we were sort of, cutting our cloth accordingly and making sure we were doing a system that worked against the opposition we were playing. So, there were moments when, Wolves were clearly on top and we were having to do a lot of passing back to Angus Gunn and goal and then boot it up the pitch. And I think there was perhaps a little bit of anxiety in the stadium to think like, are we just playing long football here? Mm-hmm. When all the successful things we saw was when maybe James Ward-Prowse or Højbjerg had the ball, were literally just running through that midfield to then push it on. Uh-huh. So there was a bit of angst around that. I would say, that are we happy with sitting back and letting a team attack us? No, I don't think anyone ever is. But you sort of understand the system, and by the second half, you suddenly figured out what we were doing and how we were playing it. So it was a bit more good feeling, I would say, and people's confidence was definitely up at that point. Obviously, because we were 3-1 up, but yeah.
All right. Well, the patrons always get priority for having their questions answered on the show, but people can send them in via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and we'll do our best to get them on. We do have a couple of other ones here from Twitter. I'm glad I checked again. I missed them earlier. James Willis, who is at James Willis 86, sends in 4 questions. We won't go through them all. James, we do have one. It says, should we keep or sell Shane Long? And I think keep him is an option. Or we can answer that, or we can answer who maybe you think we should bring in up top next season. But I think the Shane Long one is interesting now because I think a lot of people would have said before the season to get rid of him. Like it was a no-brainer kind of. He needs to move on, and we're tired of him, or we need somebody else. But I mean, do these couple of I guess performances recently, does that do enough for him to have some sort of place and play some sort of role in the team for you?
I mean, I would say it's crazy that we've been talking about Shane Long in this kind of like, based on the 2 recent performances, the goals against Liverpool's goals today. I would say, Shane Long's one of those players, what are you going to gain from selling him? So long as he's not too much of a burden on the wage bill, he's always going to be a good option if you want a bit of pace. Jack regularly says on the channel, at least Shane would have run. He might not have scored, or he might have been offside, but he would have run for that ball. So he certainly gives us an option, and certainly the way Hassan was playing, that kind of aggressive attacking football would certainly perhaps suiting Long's game more than having players play long balls up and then trying to connect with the front man up top. So I don't know. It all depends on what else we do in terms of the transfer window, who else we bring in, whether it's it needs to be some departures before we bring in any more players. But certainly I wouldn't have been too worried about losing Shane Long at the end of the season had it not been for the 2 recent games. But it's certainly showing us that he's an option, and he can score goals. Despite the goal drought, which was, I don't know, how long was it? It was maybe
it was forever,
a year or so.
While you are doing that, I'll just think of this, because I think if we are going to bring in somebody else up top, you have to have one, either Long or Austin has to go. And if you were to ask me right now which one I would want to leave, it's probably Austin. And not that I dislike him, not that I don't, not that I don't think he is a good finisher and he can do a lot of things inside the box. But you look at I think the style of play that he brings, and what I don't think it fits Hasenhüttl's style as much. My only worry if we don't replace, and also the injury record with Austin doesn't go well. We can't have Ings and Austin as our 2 kind of main threats because I don't think they stay healthy enough. But I think somebody else needs to be there because I don't necessarily want Long to be the recognized starter. I don't think that necessarily is what he's going to be good at. I think certain games when it's very clear that we're going to be just under it all game and we need an out ball and that's the guy, like sure, like that's what he's good. But so I think if I had to pick one of those 2 to move on, I think I would probably be Austin, and that might be unpopular.
Austin's very similar.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say Austin's very similar to Ings in the kind of position he plays. So yeah, I think you're probably right then. And the two times, I mean, aside from the game against Arsenal, I would say Austin is clearly looked like a championship striker. There's not really been a whole kind of clinical edge, and he's perhaps gassed out after 10, 15 minutes of coming on the pitch, but really he was sort of put on to be an impact player, snatch a goal, get us a draw, snatch a win, that kind of impact kind of striker, really.
All right, and we'll end with a really important one. It says, this is from Ralph's Revolution, who is at St. Vanderman on Twitter. He says, perfect. One of the most important questions you'll be asked, I'm sure. Would you rather be given 100,000 pounds to do with as you want, or 20 million pounds, but it all has to be spent in £1 coins only? Says, I also look forward to the real questions being answered. So, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, I guess my question is, do I have to store them all in my house? Because I don't know if I can fit that many £1 coins.
That's true. Can you imagine a vending machine?
Oh my God.
It'd just be, just the rows of vending machines.
And so I guess with 20 million pounds, like I would worry, because sometimes, you use your credit card online, you get better deals for airlines and things like that. But with 20 million pounds, does it matter? Or
right.
Can you you don't care. So you just go in and buy the plane ticket, and you just have to, but then you have to, I mean, can you imagine walking in there with here's
a lorry
1,500
of metal?
Yeah, seriously. I think I have to go 20 million just because 20 million pounds is a lot of money. I think I have to, and I will be burdened by having that many gold coins or not gold coins, but that many coins to cart around. But I will enjoy it because I'll be able just to concentrate on that only. So
exactly, you just buy a big swimming pool and fill it up with it. Just make a kind of an artistic impact with that money, and then sell it for more.
We used to have this show called, I think it was DuckTales here, and it was about it was basically, I think it was Scrooge McDuck. He had basically a vault, like a swimming pool full of things he would dive headfirst into. I don't know if you want to do that because I'm not sure they would part the water, kind of as you enter. I think you just wind up, with a swimming pool full of 20 million and your broken neck. So that wouldn't be great. But I don't know. It'd be a good problem to have. I'd take that, I guess.
That's a fun question. I like that.
I was kind of in my head trying to think, like, if I had $100,000 or 100,000 pounds, I can invest it. Like, it would take a long time to get to 20 million. Like,
right.
If it was a little bit closer, if the numbers were closer, I think maybe it'd be a little bit harder to say, well, I'd take the money, but I think the coins. I think you have to go with the coins. And then,
me too.
And then you just go Eastern Europe or Scotland and just chuck them at players on the field, because I think apparently that's what they do. So it'll be fine. But anyway, not
that we're condoning that activity.
No.
To our listeners.
It's not a family show, but it's basically a family show. I don't know. My kids hear most of the shows recorded. And if I ever say a bad word, my daughter always yells at me. Like, I heard that. It's like, well, awesome. Anyway, Mike, I don't want to cut you off at all, but is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up, and we'll make sure we tell everybody where they can find the stuff, and all of the links to everything will be in the show notes and on the website, so they can anybody's interested can find the Matchday Vlogs and find the Twitter account and the Instagram account and all that stuff.
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me on, Matt. Much appreciated. And if anyone listening out there wants to get in touch, obviously the links to all the channels are available through the Culture Hub. But thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to be on the show, and thanks very much.
I have enjoyed the vlog so far, and the cinematic stuff that you've done before is always interesting, because I just don't watch that stuff very often, and so it always freaks me out. I do have a question before we go. How high does the drone go? The drone seems like it's miles above you sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
And I just like my son has a small drone, and we've tried to fly it, and usually we just ram it into like a playground structure, or it doesn't get very high before it gets just unwieldy. So how far away does this thing actually get when you're flying it up there?
It's like a sports car. You can have a sports car that does 150 miles an hour, but you're only legally allowed to go so fast, right?
Okay.
So the drone itself will go, I think my main one would do 7 kilometers away from me. You're legally only allowed to fly within visual line of sight. So, of course, no human eye can see beyond a kilometer, let alone perhaps 70 minutes, especially the size of a drone. There's no way you can see it. And in terms of the height, they'll go, again, you can... remove the software so that you can go as high as you want to, but legally you're only allowed to go 400 feet. And to be honest with you, you don't really need to go any higher than 400 feet. I mean, it's pretty crazy to see how that is. I mean, you don't need to see the curvature of the Earth. It's important. You want to.
What do you mean? I think the Earth's flat. I thought, according to that Facebook group that my father-in-law put me in. So anyway, I think that the video I was thinking of as I was asking that question was you guys were on vacation somewhere and you were kind of out by the pool or whatever. And then it just went out and it was like, whoa, that's a really nice pool. Oh, that's a little bit bigger than I thought. And like, oh, that's like is that a forest or what is that? And then it's just like, oh, there are hills and mountains. And it's just like, how far away, like how much of what's happening? It blew me away. So, I have questions on that. So thank you. But, so for anybody who doesn't follow you, it's at MatchVlogs on Twitter. It's at MatchDayVlogs on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And your personal Instagram is Mikey Smale, MikeYSMALE on Instagram. And there's plenty of stuff there as well. And if you're into music or anything, to give you a follow because you do that. And I was secretly hoping that you were going to be able to maybe catch a match. I was going to run down to LA when you were out here, but we didn't have a match that weekend. And I was, I'm always reluctant to like tell people super far ahead of time, like, hey, make plans for this. Cause I don't want to govern your time like that, but it's always a pleasure to be able to do that. So if you're ever out here and there's a match on, I'll 7 a.m. kickoff, we can find somewhere to drink. That's legal in California after 6 a.m. So we'll be all right. But anyway, thank you so much for joining the show and we'll do it again.
Brilliant. Cheers.
And that does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Mike Smale. You can follow his new project, MatchDayVlogs, at MatchDayVlogs on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And on Twitter, it's at MatchVlogs. Go do that. You can watch the first episode right on the SouthamptonDelivery.com website. And if you like it, subscribe, and you'll get more of that. Everybody out there listening, thank you so much. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can do that on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or via email. I've really enjoyed the interaction over the past couple of weeks. I'm doing my best to get back to everybody. So give me a couple of days if I'm slow. But thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And Stephen Peak, you asked a question. I didn't get it in this episode. I'll answer it in the newsletter. Okay, that'll be what I do. It's already in the notes for that, so I won't mess it up now. This show would not be possible without the help of some very important people. Jay and everybody over at the Southampton page does a lot to help promote the show. They're the reason that so many of you even know what the show is. So follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. They are at Southampton page. You won't regret it. You'll be up to date with your news, and they do a fantastic job. Additionally, the logo for the show is done by the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Matt, who runs the page, has been a huge help from day one, getting the logo and giving me feedback. I can't do it without him. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. If this is your first time listening and you'd like to make sure you get more episodes, subscribe. You can do that using the links on the website. Makes it nice and easy. Or just search Southampton Delivery in whatever podcast app you choose. And if you've been listening for a while and you're interested in helping the show, maybe consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/SFC Delivery. It's not something I like to ask for, but I really do appreciate it. And you get some added benefits, including bonus episodes, a private chat, and priority for getting your questions answered each and every week on the show. So that's it for now. And until next time, remember that together, we march on.